Kakadosh Boker or Masechet Sanhedrin Daf Yomi Daf Yud Bet Amud Aleph 12a1. We're starting on the last line of Yud Aleph Amud Bet. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. We're not going to make it a Nibur Shana. Can you please close the door? Thank you. Bishne Avon, in a year of famine. Why? Because now what's going to happen is because we're lacking in the shuk of the marketplace, right? If we're going to come and be Me'aber the Shana, we would have to add an extra month. And then what happens is that because of the Yisur of Chadash, you have a problem. You understand? So he comes and he says, one more time, you know what Chadash is? Chadash is the old grain. No, that's a new grain. Chadash is new grain. So you're not allowed to eat Chadash. So therefore, Sfaradim, they go like Shulchan Aruch, you're not allowed to eat Chadash. So if you're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to eat Chadash, for example, right now, I have to ask, what is it? Is it Yashan or Chadash? If it's Chadash, you're not allowed to eat Chadash. Huh? Ashkenazim, the Ashkenazim have an extra leniency that if you're in Chutz La'aretz, they have a sex feika that you could come and you could be lenient, right? But for sure, if you know that it's Chadash and you're in Eretz Yisrael, you've got a big problem, right? So what happens is like this. So what happens is that right now, right, you're not allowed to eat Chadash until when? Until after Pesach. The day after Pesach, meaning the second day of Pesach, all Chadash becomes permitted. That's why for us, we never have to ask if it's Yashan or not until usually August from after Pesach. Meaning after Pesach, everything's permitted until August. Now what happens is as follows. If it's not a leap year, so therefore Pesach comes, and immediately after Pesach, everything's permitted. If it's a leap year, I added a month of prohibition. Because if I added Adar Aleph Adar Bet, when it's Pesach, 1 month later, which means that it's going to take an extra month until Be'emet I'm going to be permitted to eat the Chadash.
And if it's a famine.
So therefore, if it's a famine, there's not a lot of food. So therefore, I'm going to come and I'm going to start prohibiting harder for people. We don't want that. Okay. So because of that, we're not going to make it a leap year, Bishne Avon, right? In a year of famine. Okay? Very good. Next. Okay, Tanya, we learned in the right. Rabbi Omer, Rabbi says, V'ish ba mi ba'al shalisha, vayave leisha Elohim, lechem ikurim esrim, lechem seorim. So this pasuk is talking about Elisha Navi. And there it's talking about that they made bread made out of barley. Okay, which was done right now. There's nothing which is easier in Eretz Yisrael to come to ripen its fruit more than a Baal Shalisha, right? Which is, this is the place, the name of the place. And still, lo bikra el min echad. It only came and made one produce. Meaning, this certain place, it's called Baal Shalisha, it's a name of a place. It was the easiest to come and to make, whether it's going to be fruits or this or that or all these different things. Now, what happens is that it says over here, Shema Tumar, maybe you're going to come and you're going to say it's chitim, right? Maybe you're going to come and you're going to say that it's coming out made out of wheat. Tamulomar comes to teach you seorim. It only made barley. It didn't even make wheat. Meaning, what is the not the inferior? What is the best? The best is wheat. Here, it only made barley, right? Shema Tumar, maybe you're also going to come and you're going to say, right, Lifnei HaOmer, right, before the Korban HaOmer, Talmud comes to teach you, Ten la'am v'yochelu, right, give to the nation and they're going to eat it. Achar HaOmer haya. We're talking about this is going to be after the Korban HaOmer. So, Emor me'ata, we're going to say until now, Ruya hayita, right, Ota shana shetitaber. We're going to come and we're going to say that this year is fitting to come and to become like a shana me'uberet, meaning this year is fitting to become a leap year. So then why didn't Elisha Navi come and make it to the leap year? Yeah. So he says, Shnat Betzoret Haita. He comes and he says it was a Shnat Betzoret. What does that mean? It was a famine. Vayu kol ratzin lebet agronot, and everybody was running to the bet agronot in order to find food. So it comes out from here we learn that just like in the time of Elisha, that again we're talking about the best produce because this was a field it was a certain place that everyone knew was the most fertilized. They were only able to make barley, and they were only to. So that means you see that he didn't make it until leap year, even though it was fitting to make it a leap year. Why? Shnat Batzoret, the time of famine, you don't make leap years. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita. En me'aberin et hashana lifnei Rosh Hashanah. You never make a nibur shana before Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, he says why? Because if you're going to do it before Rosh Hashanah, people are going to forget until it comes that time, and they're going to do Pesach in the wrong time. Ve'imi bruna, if they did do it before Rosh Hashanah, ena meuberet. It's not considered a shana meuberet. Aval mipnei adachak, because of the dachak, me'abrin ota achar Rosh Hashanah miyad. You could do it immediately after Rosh Hashanah, Okay, you could do it immediately afterwards. Right? And but the only month that they're adding on is Adar. Meaning, I'm going to come and I'm going to make a leap year. Maybe I'm going to make a leap year. I'm going to do 2 Tishris, 2 Cheshvans, 2 Kislevs. Yeah. So he says no, not only because of Pesach. There's a few things. One of them was because of Pesach, because of Aviv. One of them, but there was other reasons as well, which we learned 2 days ago. So he says no. He says whichever one you're going to do, doesn't matter when you're going to make it into a leap year. You only do it in Adar, meaning that Adar is the only month which is going to be the extra month, which is going to be added. Okay, fine. So says the Gemara, is it so? He says, Vashalchu Rava. They came and they sent to Rava, right? Zug ba merakat, right? There's going to be a zug of Tamidei Chachamim, right? That they come from Tveria. Remember, Rakat is Tveria. Utfaso Nesher, right? And they were grabbed in the hands of the Tzava of Pras, right? Of Persia. Uviadam Dvarim Naasim Beluz, right? And in their hands they had things which were done in luz. So the Gemara is going to ask that even if it's going to be Bet Tzorech, you don't do it after Rosh Hashanah. He says, 1 second. There was a case that the Chachamim sent to Rava, and there was basically the group that came from Tveria. They had in their hands, right? They were caught by the Tzva Pras, and they had certain things. What were they caught with? What is Dvarim Anasim Beluz? He says, Tchelet. They had the tchilet. You know what the tchilet is? Tchilet is the colored tzitziot, right? So he says, "Bizchut arachamim, bizchut hakadosh baruch hu, bizchutam yatzu b'shalom." They came out free. V'amusei yerichei Nachshon, and the Nasi of Eretz Yisrael, that he was from the children of Nachshon and Aminadav, right? Lemate Yehuda, which we're going to read his parasha soon. Bikshu likboa natziv echad, right? He says they came and they asked to add on an extra month. And Malchut Romi Yerasha, they didn't allow them. But they went and they did it in the month of Av. Right? I mean, that means they did right now for the month of Av. Remember, what was the month that Aaron Cohen passed away? Av. Right? It's the only one that is actually mentioned Mefurash in the Torah to do with the concept of when exactly, what date and everything passed away. So it was the first day of the month of Av. Yeah? So he comes and he says in Bamidbar. Yeah, so he comes and he says, like this. He says, so they did it in Chodesh Av. So says the Gemara, 1 second. It comes out that here they're going to do it in the month of Av. They didn't wait until after Rosh Hashanah. You told me that when are you going to come and start making a leap year, right? Because remember, many times you could already find out that you need a leap year from the year before, meaning this year it could be that you don't need to come and you don't need to make it a leap year, right? But technically speaking, here, right, you do need to make it a leap year. So here in the month of Av, they already fixed that next year is going to be a leap year. Now, I thought you just told me that you only need to do that after Rosh Hashanah. So answers the Gemara, Chashuve mechashve galuye lo megaleu. It says, no, you're right. To make the calculations, we'll do it. And we'll make the calculations from now. Yeah, we'll do it from now. No problem whatsoever. However, though, he comes and he says, even though we're going to do it from now, he comes and he says, but galuye lo we're not going to tell it to anybody until after Rosh Hashanah. Meaning the rabbis will come and start calculating and start saying, you know what, we have to do it now. Then they'll do it. And they'll do it even in the month of Av. But they will not reveal it to anybody until after Rosh Hashanah. So, my mashma dai netziv lishna diarachahu. He says, how do we know that the lashon of netziv means, right, chodesh? Netziv usually is like a pillar. How do we know that the word netziv means a month? So he says, dichtiv, it says in pasuk, לשלמה 12 ניצבים על כל ישראל וחגגו את המלך ואת ביתו חודש בשנה. So he says every netziv was memune on 1 month of the king. So therefore it's coming and saying, so we see from here that the word netziv refers to a month. Okay, so netziv equals month. He was memune to come and to give parnasa to the king and to his entire family. So we had one person that he was in charge of every single month. It's like, for example, they take turns. So there's a router, right? So for example, it's your turn, right? Actually, I used to have this with. Okay, very good. So you're Chodesh Adar. So you would come and Chodesh Adar, you would come and you would give me the parnasa.
The king.
Yes, I'm the king. Yeah. So therefore, you come and you give to and then the next one is going to be Chodesh Nisan. The next one Iyar. Now there it said Nitzavim. We're talking about Nitzavim. So therefore, you see from here that the Nitzavim was a month. Because every single month, there was another person right? No, they were in charge of the ones making sure that he had everything, right? That he had everything, right? They were the ones that are in charge. I remember that we used to have it in the yeshiva, right? We used to have a Rabbi. He used to eat in the classroom, and then he used to take a few minute naps, right? In the mamash, everything in the classroom, right? This was during the break that we had for thing, and every single week there was a turn of another bachur that he used to come and he used to bring him lunch. So he used to come, he used to bring him the lunch to the Rabbi, and then he used to come, like mamash like that. So fine. The active, but it's written in the pasuk untziv echad asher ba'aretz. So here it's mashma that the netziv is not the month. It's mashma that it's somebody that's in charge of that. It's not the month. Yeah. So he says Rav Yehuda Rav Nachman. Right, Rav Yehuda Rav Nachman comes and he says, right, he's basically bringing it from a pasuk, meaning from logic you can't say that because from this pasuk, right, from this pasuk, right? From the pasuk, I don't understand why you're so excited. It's the exact opposite of what the Gemara said, but it doesn't matter, right? One more time, right? The pasuk is mashma that it's a month. There's another pasuk, and in another pasuk, there it's mashma that it's Eve is the actual person representing the month, not the month. Meaning, if you're going to tell me from this pasuk, why do you say that? You're wrong, right? But there it's wrong. But again, there's another pasuk. The pasuk says "Untziv echad asher ba'aretz," and there it's mashma that we're referring to the netzig, the one which is representing the month, not the actual month. So answers the Gemara of Yehuda Rav Nachman. Chadama, one of them says "Zecha memuneh al kulam." Says no, there we're referring to it's a netziv which is in charge of all the other ones, right? V'chadaman, and one of them comes and he says, right, keneged u'chodesh ha'ibur. He says no, that netziv was actually be'emet. It was a shana muberet, so you need an extra month. So that's why it was an extra. Meaning, either you're going to tell me that it's like one of them which is in charge of all the other ones, right? Of the other nitzavim. So, for since you have 12 nitzavim which are in charge of the mas, so you had one extra one that he's in charge of the 12. Meaning, you guys have the 12 people, and you have one person in charge of those 12. Right? It's like you have a policeman. So you have 12 police officers, and you have one in charge of that police. You have the I don't know what you would call him, right? The captain, whatever you want to call him, that he's the one which is in charge of all the other 12. The other one says, no, really bad man. Exactly that what we spoke about. Well, what are we talking about? We're talking about the extra month. There's an extra month. There's a darshani. Once a darshani, you can't have 12, you need 13. So that's why you had an extra one, right, of the number 13. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan, we learned to the Braita. En me'abrin et hashana lo min shana lechaverta. Right, we're not going to make an ibur shana, not from 1 year to the next. Right, velo shalosh shanim zu achar zu. So we're never going to make it 1 year after another, right, or 3 years, right, in a row. Right? Why? Because obviously you're going to come and start doing that, right? The third year, it's already going to be in the kites. Think about it. If I would make 3 leap years in a row, what's going to happen? The first year, Pesach was already 1 month late, right? It wasn't 1 month; it's 11 days, right? But I'm saying, right? If you're going to do it a next year, right? It's again another thing. So basically, what's happening is that by the time it comes down to it, remember that there was always every year you're missing 11. So therefore, every 3 years, you make up 1 month. But if every single year you make a leap year, you're pushing off Pesach 1 month. So by the time it comes down to it, in the third year, Pesach is in the middle of the kites, in the middle of the summertime, right? Because you added on 1 month, next year you add another month, and next year you add another month. Pesach is already in the middle of the summer. So he says, Amar Rabbi Shimon, says Rabbi Shimon, right? He says, Maaser Rabbi Akiva, there was a story with Rabbi Akiva, She'achavush beret asurim, that he was in the jail, and he did do it 3 years, one after another. Samrulo, they told him, Misham Raya, is that a proof? He says, Betin yashvu v'kavu achat achat bizmanah. Betin came and they did it, each one in its proper time, which means Rabbi Akiva was a chacham gadol and he was a baki, and therefore he was going to be killed. So chachamim came, right, to help him out, and therefore he went and he did it, right, each one in the proper time. Not meaning it's not that he did 3 years in a row, ibur shana, right? What they did is that he calculated the next 3 ibur shanas. Everyone understand what that means? Meaning the next 3 leap years he calculated. It wasn't talking about one after another. Each one was a proper time. Which one? It wasn't consecutive years, right? It was not. No. Oh, okay, exactly. It's not consecutive years. Meaning we thought that what Rabbi Akiva did is he did year 1, 2, and 3. He didn't do that. What he did is 1, 4, and 7, or 1, 4, and 8. That's what he did. Now, the only thing is, they did it right now. Now, why did they do it right now? They did it right now because he was going to be killed. He was in jail. So therefore, they went, they calculated all the different things, and they did it. Now, what happened was, yeah, very simple. So he says, so what happened though? So he says, but they didn't tell anybody about it. And that's again the same thing, right? Because if you remember, we just said that they're allowed to be mechashev, whatever they want, but they're just not going to reveal it. So that's exactly what they did, right? In this time as well. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned to the Braita. You're not going to make it a shana meuberet, not on the Shavit, meaning not the year of Shemitah, because remember, if you do it on Shemitah, what happens? You're gaining an extra month that you're not allowed to work the land, right? And therefore, you're not allowed to work the land. It's good to, so it's not good. Or Motzeh Shavit, or not only, or also on the year after Shavit, right? Why? Because since they didn't come and they didn't plant on Shavit, all the Tivua Yeshana, right, which is the last one, is already going to be finished. So therefore, if you're going to do it Motzeh Shavit, there's going to be Chadash too early, and it's not good. So we don't want to do that. Okay, so Ematai Regilin Laber. So when would they do it? Erev Shavit. They could do it Erev Shavit, because then they're basically adding on an extra month that you could work the land before Shemitah. So it makes sense. Basically, the year before Shemitah, you're going to work the land an extra month, and that's actually good, right, for everybody. But in the academy, right, this is the house of Rabbi Gamliel, and they used to do it also Motzeh Shavit, and they wouldn't suspect that it's not going to have enough food or whatever it is afterwards. So they used to come and they used to say, no, there's no problem whatsoever, right? He says because at the end of the day, it was going to be permitted for them to plant and to plow and everything. So he comes and he says, anything which is going to be done in Chutzaretz before the Pesach, so therefore he wasn't afraid of that because they could still get everything from Chutzaretz. They could import it from Chutzaretz, right, from the diaspora. So therefore he wasn't afraid of that. Uveplukta dani tanai, and this is actually the machloket of these tanaim. The Tanya was learned on Braita. En mevi'in yerek. You're not going to bring any types of vegetables michutz haaretz. Okay, any legumes you don't bring from chutz haaretz to Eretz Yisrael. But again, the rabbis they permitted it. So what is a machloket? You have Tanakama and then you have Rabbeinu. So Tanakama and that Braita holds like the Tanakama. That what is he saying? He's saying you're not allowed to bring anything from chutz haaretz, and therefore, if right now in the 8th year it's not going to be found. So therefore, you're not going to make it into a shanash, into a, how do you call this, into a leap year, because then you've got a big problem. But the Bedin of Gamliel, that they hold like Rabotenu in the Braita, that you're allowed to bring from Chutz Haaretz, so therefore you're allowed to make it into a leap year, right, the year after Shemitah, because there's no problem, because even if there's going to be Sur Chadash, you could still bring it from Chutz Haaretz, and therefore there's not going to be any problems whatsoever. So my Benai, what is the difference between them? Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah says Rabbi Yirmiyah, Chosheshin legushehen ika benaihu. The Yesod Machloket is: are we going to suspect that maybe they're going to come and they're going to bring the dirt or the dirt of Chutzaretz together with the vegetables, right? And that's going to impure. That's going to impure the taharot of Eretz Yisrael. Because remember, they made a gezerah on Eretz Hamim. They made a gezerah on the land of Chutzaretz, right? So therefore, since they made a gezerah on the land of Chutzaretz, of Tum'ah, so therefore, if you're going to bring it in, so many times you're going to bring potatoes, you're going to bring all these things. So now, whenever you're bringing things in, if you're going to bring it in with the earth, so you're going to impurify things. So because of that, they didn't want you to bring any of these things inside of Eretz of Chutzaretz to Eretz Yisrael. So he comes and he says, because if not, what's going to happen is that again, you're bringing in Tumah and Eretz Yisrael. They don't want that. So they just said, you know what? You're not allowed to bring any types of vegetables whatsoever into Eretz Yisrael. So that is going to be the machloka between the Tanakama and the Rabbi Gamliel. And that's the reason why are you going to make it a leap year on the year after Shemitah? Because again, this is all to do with after Shemitah. Okay? So Tanu Rabbanan, we learned to the Braita. You're not going to be Ma'aberet Hashana mipnei Tumah. Right? Rabbi Yehuda says, you do it. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, Masechet Chizkiyahu melech Yehuda sheiber et hashana mipnei tumah. There was a story with Chizkiyahu, the king of Yehuda, that he didn't make it into a ibur shana because of the tumah. Ubikesh rachamim al atzmo, and he asked that Hashem should forgive him. The chtiv, as it says in a pasuk, ki marbita am rabat me'Ephraim u'mnashe Yisachar u'Zvulun lo hitirahu. What does that mean exactly? Right, Yud Bet Amubet, ki achlu et Pesach b'lo kekatuv. Which means that basically what's happening is that when the Chizkiyahu Melech came and he was bringing everybody to do teshuvah, he knew that they weren't going to be able to come and to be pure before Pesach. So what did he do? He made it a Ribur Shana and he pushed off Pesach by a month. So basically, he gave them an extra month to purify themselves. So therefore, he did this. Now he asked the Kadosh Baruch Hu for mercy. For why? Because it was a sin. right? At the end of the day, the Gemara is going to explain. One second. No, because again, he's making it an Ibur Shana in order to push off Tumah. Now, one second. We just spoke about, do we make it an Ibur Shana because of Tumah or not? According to Tanakama, we're not going to do it, right? Which means, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, you do. Now, Rabbi Yehuda tries to bring a proof to him that you're allowed to be me'aberet hashana because of tumah from the story of Chizkiyahu Melech Yehuda. Then what did he do? He was being machzir everybody into shuvah, and when he was being machzir everyone into shuvah, he knew that they couldn't become pure before Pesach. So what did he do? He made it a leap year. By making it a leap year, he's giving everybody an extra month to become tahor. So that's exactly what he's doing. So he's it's not everybody. It's not everybody. Again, one more time. If the majority of the tzibur, are going to, so then it's something else. Here it's not everybody, but he wants that everybody should become pure. See, that's what he says. Ki marbita am rabat me Ephraim umnashei Yisachar uzvulun lo yiteharu ki achlu et haPesach belo katuv. Which means he was me'aberet hashana because of the tumah shelo kadin. Right? Because at the end of the day, the Gemara is going to say exactly why. Ki itpalel Chizkiyahu lehem lemor Hashem natov yechaper be'ad. Hashem natov is going to give mercy for them. So Rabbi Shimon Omed, he says meuberet. If they did it because of tumah, it's going to be meuberet. So then 1 second. So therefore, why is he mevakesh rachamim then? So he says en me'aberin el adar behui ber nisan benisan. He says no. You know why? Whenever we do a leap year, we always do it in the month of Adar, right? Even before Kiddush HaChodesh of Nisan. Here it was already Kiddush HaChodesh of Nisan, and then he decided to make an Adar Shani. So that's why he did it wrong. Meaning the wrong is that Keilu, he added an Adar when it's already too late, that it's already, what? It's already Nisan, right? No, okay, fine. But again, this is what he did. So therefore, according to this, that's why he did it wrong, right? He comes and he says, Rabbi Yehuda, right? Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, Omer Shimon. Says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rabbi Shimon. He says, Mipnei she'isi et Yisrael aso Pesach Sheni. Yeah? So he says, just make sure when you go up, please close the door. So he says the reason why Chizkiyahu was not me'aberet hashana, not in Nisan, not in Adar, but he was mevakesh rachamim because, right, he wanted Israel to do Pesach Sheni shelo kadim. Right, what does that mean? Somebody that is not going to bring the Korban Pesach on the proper time, so he's going to do it when? In Pesach Sheni. So he says this is only going to be for Yechidim, right? But if the majority of the people are bringing our Tum'ah, so therefore they're going to bring a Bizmano, for the majority of the people, obviously. So now in the case of Chizkiyahu, since it says Marbita Am Lo Yiteharu, right, they couldn't have pushed it off to the Chodesh of Iyar, but therefore they should have brought it in the Chodesh Nisan, Betum'ah. And therefore he was Mevakesh Rachamim, that he gave them a Yi'ud Shelo Kadin, which means he came and he advised them not properly. If it was Marbita Am, the majority of the people, they should have brought it in the proper time, even though it's Betum'ah. He told them, wait until Adar Sheni, not Adar Sheni, until Pesach Sheni, which is in Iyar, right? So he told them, wait until Iyar, Pesach Sheni. Now that was wrong, really, because really Be'emet. So therefore, according to this explanation, he didn't make it a leap year. He did not make it a leap year at all. But what he did was he gave them a bad advice. So he asked from HaKadosh Baruch Hu mercy. He asked for mechila because he gave them a bad advice. So according to this shita, completely, he didn't even make it into a Yibur Shana. He didn't do it at all. Okay? Fine. So Amar More says, Rabbi Yehuda says, Me'aberin, you do it because of Tumah. Alma itle Rabbi Yehuda, Tumah dechuyai b'tzibur. So it comes out that if you're going to tell me that you're going to make it into an Ibur Shana, so it comes out that Rabbi Yehuda is mashma that he holds that what? That Tumah is dechuyai b'tzibur, which means because they permitted it. So therefore, that means we're going to try to do as much as we can to have everybody b'tahara. That's what we're going to do, and therefore we have to be me'abed the shana in order to purify them. Meaning we're going to try to do it in such a fashion that I want to come and I want to make it an Ibur Shana in order that they should not come and they should not make it Tum'ah. Okay, 1 minute and then I'll answer the questions. So says the Gemara, 1 second. Vatanya, we learned in a Braita, tzitz. What does the tzitz do? Ben sheyeshno al mitzcho u ben she'eno al mitzcho meratzeh. He says, what's the purpose of the tzitz? The tzitz is the head plate of the Kohen Gadol. When the head plate is on the head of the Kohen Gadol, right, whether it's going to be on his head or it's not, whether it's mean that it's Tumah Korban or not, it's going to be Meratzeh the Korban in front of Hashem. These are the words of Rabbi Shimon. And Rabbi Yehuda says, only if it's on his forehead does it Meratzeh the Korban. Meaning, if you have the tzitz, even if they brought it to Tumah, it's still going to be okay. That's what the tzitz does, right? According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's only if it's on his forehead. But if it's not on his forehead, so it's not. So Amar lo Rabbi Shimon, says Rabbi Shimon, Kohen Gadol b'Yom Kippurim yuchiach. The Kohen Gadol on Kippur is going to bring you a proof. She'enu al mitzcho, because it's not going to be a mitzcho, right? And it is going to be meratzeh on the tum'ah that happened during the times of the korbanot. So Amar lo Rabbi Yehuda, says Rabbi Yehuda, Hanach liyom kippurim shetumah yitra b'tzibur. It's different kippur because tumah utra you don't need the tzitz, right? And according to your reasoning, tikshilach hi gufa. Why don't we ask that that's a stira in itself? Why? Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, Ma'berin, right? They're going to come and they're allowed to make the bibur shana. They're allowed to be ma'ber because of the tum'ah. So it's mashma, you're allowed to do though. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda, Maaseh b'Chizkiyahu melech Yehuda. There was a story with Chizkiyahu melech Yehuda. She'iber et hashana mipnei hatumah, v'bikesh rachamim al atzmo. That he went and he did, right? Chizkiyahu melech Yehuda came and he made a bibur shana because of tumah, and he asked for mercy. So it's mashma, right? That what? That he did shelo kadin. So it's mashma, you're allowed to do so. Again, this is again, Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, Ma'abrim et tumah, and then Rabbi Yehuda, this is what Chizkiyahu did. So he says, no, we're lacking part of the Braita. This is what you had to say. The kavanah of the Braita is really be'emet, we do not make any bur shana because of tum'ah. V'imi bruha, now if you did make it into a shana meuberet, it is going to be shana meuberet. Meaning, even according to Tanakama, you're not allowed to do it, but if you did it, it's okay. Okay, it is going to be okay. But then he comes and he says, right? He says, however, though, Rabbi Yehuda argues and he says, "Ena meuberet." And Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda, right? The Chizkiyahu came and he actually asked for it because it comes out that the two braitot are actually saying that Tumah hutra betzibur, according to Rabbi Yehuda, because he's actually saying, Rabbi Yehuda is going the exact opposite of what we said before. Rabbi Yehuda is telling you that even if they came and they did it into a Shana Muberet, it's not a Shana Muberet, and that's why he had to ask for mercy. He had to ask for mercy because even B'diavad doesn't help. And therefore, he had to ask for Rachamim from HaKadosh Baruch Hu because he made a mistake. So says the Gemara, 1 second. If so, Rabbi Shimon Omer mipnei atuma ibrua meuberet, right? Hainu Tanakama. So then that's a Tanakama then. One more time. Right after we just learned Tanakama, Tan Rabbanan, we learned the Braita. This is a Tosefta. The Braita says you're not going to make a ibur shana mipnei atuma, and then Rabbi Yehuda argues. Now we said we were lacking part of the Braita because really it said and if you did it, it's going to be okay. And then Rabbi Yehuda argues and he says, no, if you did it, it's not okay. Then Rabbi Shimon comes and he says, it is going to be meuberet. So therefore, that's exactly like Tanakama. So what do I have Rabbi Shimon? What am I adding? Rabbi Shimon is Tanakama. So he says, Amar Rava says, Lechatchila ika benayu. No, the difference between Rabbi Shimon and Tanakama is the lechatchila. Because Tanakama says, lechatchila, you're not going to do it because of Tumah. But if you did it, it's going to be okay. And Rabbi Shimon says that even lechatchila, you're allowed to do it because of Tumah. So that means they both said the same thing. The only machlok between them is the lechatchila. Do lechatchila, can you be me'aber shana because of Tumah? According to Rabbi Shimon, yes, you could. And according to the Tanakama, no, it's only be diava. So there's 3 opinions. Yes, there was always 3 opinions. We also learned in the Braita, you're not going to be ma'aber et hashana because of the tumah lechatchila. Rabbi Shimon comes and he says, "Me'aberin, you do it even lechatchila." So then, why did he have to ask for rachamim then? So according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, remember, according to each shita, we have to understand what Chizkiyahu sinned, right? Because again, it says that Chizkiyahu asked for mercy, meaning that he did an avirah. So each shita is going to explain to you what was the sin. So according to Rabbi Shimon, if lechatechila, you're allowed to come and you're allowed to make ibur shana in order to get tahara, in order to get purity. So why did he sin? So he answers, you know why he sinned? Nisan. Because he did it in Nisan. He didn't do it in Adar. If he would have done it in Adar before Nisan, it would have been lechatchila and everything would have been okay. But the fact that he waited until Nisan, that was his avirah. According to the other shitot, it was because he wasn't allowed to do it at all, or because he did it and he pushed it off and he shouldn't have pushed it off, or whatever. That means each shita has to bring a reason why be'emet did he do an avirah and why he's asking for mercy, kilu from Hashem, in order. Amar More says, En me'aberim ela adar vehu iber nisan v'nisan v'lele Chizkiyahu hachodesh ze lachem ze nisan ve'en acher nisan. Since I don't understand you. According to Shitat Rabbi Shimon, right, he says, En me'aberim ela adar, and he did it in Nisan. So what? Chizkiyahu didn't hold of the pasuk that it says "Achodesh lachem." It's Nisan, which means that you cannot make another Nisan on Nisan. So he says Ta'abed Shmuel. Yes, but he made a mistake in Shmuel. Ta'amar Shmuel, because Shmuel says "Em amrim et hashana b'yom shoshim shel Adar." You're never going to make the leap year on the 30th of Adar. Because you could already have made it into Nisan. And he said, that we don't say it. So for he thought that I could still be Ma'aberet Hashana, right? And therefore, right, he comes and he says, he was Ma'aberet Hashana Be'osafat Adar Shani, and then he realized that no, because of Shemuel, he actually made a mistake. Okay, so then he's really bad, man. He did it on the 30th of Adar. But the Hoil V'ra'ui, he didn't hold of it at the beginning. Yeah, he didn't hold of Hoil V'ra'ui. So one more time, you're not allowed, meaning he knew you cannot make it in Nisan. That for sure no. But what about the 30th of Adar? So now the Betin of Shmuel says the 30th of Adar you also cannot make it into leap year. Why? Because since the 30th of Adar could have already been Nisan, so therefore the 30th of Adar is already Nisan. You can do it. He didn't realize this, so therefore he said, no, 30th of Adar. We're making another Adar.
What's the problem?
What?
What's the white stuff? They shouldn't.
So he says now like this. He says, Tanya Miyachi, we also learned in a Braita, En ma'abrim et hashana b'yom shoshim shel Adar. You don't make the Ibur Shana on the 30th of Adar, Hoil v'ra'ui lekovo b'Nisan, because it's fitting to do it in the month of Nisan. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, Omer Rabbi Shimon says Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda in the name of Rabbi Shimon, Mipnei she'isi et Yisrael la'asot Pesach Sheni. He says, no, you know what the Avirah was? Really, Be'emet, the Avirah was that he told everybody to do Adar Sheni. And remember, the majority of the people, right? It says Marbita Am. So since it says Marbita Am, it was the majority of the people. So therefore, obviously, what happens is that they shouldn't have done Pesach Sheni, they should have done Pesach Rishon. But since it's the majority of the Klal Yisrael, they should have done it. So says the Gemara, Hechidami, how do you say it's the majority of Klal Yisrael? Right? Why? Because what? It was the majority of the people. So Ravashi says, Kigon Shayu Yisrael Mechzat Mim Mechzat Teorim. He said you had half.
Half the majority.
Well, one say exactly. So he's going to say you had half of Israel Tmim, half of them are going to be Teorim. V'nashim mashlimot leTeorim. Now the women, right, are going to come and they're going to be right mashlimot to the Teorim. Ve'odfot alehem. Right. What does that mean now? Odfot alehem. It says over here, what does that mean? And then they're going to come and they're going to say, so therefore you have the majority of Teorim. So it comes out, Chizkiyahu knew that it wasn't the majority of the Tzibur, that it's going to be pushed off.
He thought the women...
We're part of it. 1 minute. Don't go ahead. 1 second. So one more time. So Ravashi comes and he answers that really Be'emet, Yisrael were half-half. So for since you have half-half and there were even a little bit more Tmeim, right? The women came and they were mashlimot to the Teorim, and therefore that's why you had the majority, which is Tahor. So says the Gemara, what was the mistake? Meikara Savar, at the beginning he thought Nashim Barishon Chova. They thought the women are going to be obligated in the Korban Pesach on the 14th of Nisan, right? And therefore he actually added them into the...
He added the exempt individuals.
He added the things.
No. It says Hizkiah erred in that he included exempt individuals in its calculation.
Exactly, because they weren't included. They have umiyatan tmeim, but the minority were tmeim. Umiyutan, yeah, okay. Umiyutan midchilu pesach sheni, and you have the miut, which is going to be pushed off to pesach sheni. Ulvasof savar nashim barishon reshut. But then afterwards he says the women are not obligated in the korban pesach in the first month. It's only if they wanted to. So therefore now you have the majority tmeim. And therefore, Rubu Lumadchu Pesach Sheni. So you're not going to push off the majority to Pesach Sheni, which means one more time. You always had a little bit of a majority, right? You had a little bit of a majority to mean. What happened was he thought that women are obligated. So if women are obligated, the majority of the women were pure. So if you add the majority of the women to the minor, whatever, to the total, and now since you have majority of the women, so therefore you have the majority tahor. Now, if you're only going to say that the women are not obligated, and it's only the shoot, it's only if they want to, they could do it. So if you don't take them into account. So if you don't take them into account, you have the majority Tmeim. If you have the majority Tmeim, they shouldn't have been pushed off to Pesach Sheni. Okay? Fine. Gufa. 2 dots. Gufa Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, you're not going to make an Ibur Shana on the 30th of Adar. Ibru Mai. Right? What are we talking about now that the Ibru that they came and they did it on the 30th of Adar? Amar Ula says, you're not going to make it Mikudash, right, to Adar Sheni. Right? So he comes and he says, right, because since it's fitting to make it, we're not going to do that. Kitshumai. What does that mean now? So Amar Rava, right? He comes and he says, right, Batel Haibur. He comes and he says it's going to be Batel. Rav Nachman Amar. Rav Nachman says Meubar Kudash. He says it is Meubar, and it's also going to be Mekudash. Meaning B'diavad, it's going to be Meubar, and it's also going to be Mekudash. Yeah. קודם תקבוס הדבר. מה? לא הבנתי. אני לא גם. כן, אבל אחר כך, אבל שיזכרו את הדלת. יש לנו לימודים דרבנן. אמר לרב נחמן, says Rava to Rav Nachman, מיכדם מפוריה לפסחא תלתין יומין הבו. He comes and he says, since between Purim and Pesach, there's 30 days, and from Purim and Dashinam Yilchot Pesach, the Tanya was we already know, Sholim Yilchot Pesach, Kodem Pesach, Shom Yom. You always start learning Yilchot Pesach 30 days beforehand. So Rashbag says, B'shte Shabbatot, it's 2 Shabbatot before Pesach, which is basically from Rosh Chodesh Nisan. V'chimati Resh Yarcha, now according to you, once it gets Rosh Chodesh, Menachakin le, so now they're going to be marchik, the Pesach and the Chodesh, because of the Ibur, Atil Zilzule Bechametz. So now they're going to come and they're going to be Mezalzel, Bisur Chametz. So this is a question against you. So Elmaleh comes and he says, "Made the idea the shata ba'abarta bechushbana tal yaminta." He says they already know that a shana mu'beret is talui becheshbon, right? That's between the month and the lunar cycle and the solar cycle. So he says, "Amri." They said chushbana right who de lo salke lehul rabbanan al hashta. He says they didn't finish their cheshbon. So since they didn't finish their cheshbon, that's why we're going to come and we're going to say that they're not going to be mizalzel in the yisur of chametz and Pesach. And then Rav Yudah says in the Mishmon, אם כן הייתה תקופה חסרה, רובה של חודש, כמה רובה של חודש? 16 יום, 16 days.